Okay, we're going to talk about, I'm going to do a walkthrough of this BMW video, or this BMW bumper kind of animation, using alpha mats and track mats and alpha mats and stuff like that. So I've got my logo here. It does not have a transparent background when I download it. It's a PNG, but my background's still white, so we need to cut that out. So we're going to do that by duplicating my BMW layer. I'm going to reference pretty much the duplicate copy to know what to stencil out. I'm going to go to Luma matte or Luma inverted matte to cut that out. Actually, maybe Luma matte. Oh, you know what? We got to do this so we can see what it's cutting out. Okay, so Luma inverted will cut it out. Sorry, I had my toggle transparency grid on. When you don't do that, it shows even transparent parts as black. So to bring that up, now we can see it. And let me just create a background here. We'll just do a typical blue background, or dark blue, just so we can see it, and put it behind it. Okay, so here's our start. We got our layer, right? Looks not great. You can kind of see on it too, there's some white edges and stuff like that. We're going to get rid of that, so don't worry. We're going to color this so it's not just black and white and boring. So I've got this more or less stenciled out. I think if I throw a levels effect on here, I wonder if I can clean it up at all. This will just make it more contrasty to make it easier to see. I think it's my whites that are giving me problems. If I bring those down, I mean, it's just negligible. It's already pretty much all white or all black, so this will have to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-C. I'm going to go through this pretty quick, guys. I'm not going to really take my time. You can always pause it and go back. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-C to pre-compose those two layers that I have selected. I'm going to rename this logo. Pre-composing takes whatever you have selected and creates its own composition out of it, flattening it to one layer, one composition. So now this layer is a whole composition, and it'll place that up here. So you can see it place my logo comp up here, which is a different comp, so ignore that. So now I have my logo comp. Now I need to start picking this apart so I can animate the pieces individually. Okay, so I'm going to grab my pen tool, and with my logo selected, I'm going to dive in here. I'm going to make a little cross cut here. And I'm just going to cut out the rest of this guy. Kind of use my beveled edges here to cut this piece out. Okay, so I've got my fan. I'm going to rename this to Fan 1. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to delete the mask and start all over. I'm going to make my cut in the middle again. About there, and I'm going to create this mask. I kind of do a garbage one first, and then I go back with these guys and adjust it so it fills it out right. Okay, looks good. Fan 2 looks good. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to hit M and delete the mask so I can start from scratch. So this part will get a little more difficult. When I cut around this, it's going to take two masks to cut this out, because I need to cut the outside out and I need to cut the inside out. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to click in the middle, and I'm going to hold Control and Shift after I start clicking and dragging. You can see what that does. It's going to make a perfect circle, right? I'll do one there, and that will cut out that outside circle. And I'm going to just copy that mask one and paste it onto the logo again. So I think I can duplicate too. Maybe Control D to duplicate the mask. So now I have two masks right on top of each other. And then I can take this expansion and bring it down. Oops, I'm sorry. I need to change this to subtract. So the first one by default will add anything that's inside of the circle. So that's why you see all the stuff inside. If I set the other one to subtract and I take this expansion and move it in, it's essentially like scaling down my mask. I can expand it in a negative way to scale it down and cut out this middle part. So if I hide my fans, you can see what it did here. So if I bring my expansion back to 0, I have two masks right on top of each other. One mask is cutting out everything over here. One mask is cutting out everything over here. So to use my expansion, I can bring this down to cut out the stuff inside. So Mask 2 is cutting out everything inside of here. It's subtracting everything inside of it. That's why this is set to subtract. Mask 1 is out here, and it's adding everything inside of it, so it's set to add. Sometimes it depends on how these are ordered, too. If I put subtract before add, what it's going to do is, I'm going to set this to none. It's going to take mask 2, which is this mask. It's going to subtract everything inside of it. And mask 1, if I set that to add, it messes it up. So the way these are ordered matters, right? I want to add everything inside of this first, and then I want to cut out everything inside of this second one. So, so I got this, which is my BMW circle. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to hit M. I'm going to delete both those masks to start fresh. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before with my ellipse tool here. I'm going to click out and drag. I'm going to hit Shift and Control. And I am going to cut out, actually I can do this all one here. I want to cut out everything inside of this. So I'm just going to set this one to subtract. That'll cut that out. Okay, so that gives me that. Okay, great. So now let's color these. I'm still seeing a kind of a weird white box there. I don't know if that's going to stick or not, but we'll find out. I have a feeling it's going to not like that I'm there. So let's do this. This box here is what's going to get me. I wonder if we go here. Yeah, let's do this. What if we cut that out from in here? There's a weird box that's coming around that. I'm not sure exactly why. Actually, you know what? This is stupid. Let's just use my ellipse tool. We'll go from the center. Similar to how we did before. I'm just going to cut this as close to this circle as possible. Again, it adds it, hoping that it removes that box from outside, which it did. Okay, that weird box that was floating out here. I went into my pre-comp to go back to this original one, and I cut out this weird box that was out here. So by masking that out, I did myself a favor. Okay, good job. Go us. Okay, so we have all our pieces. Outer circle. Now we need to color this thing. So I'll click on my outer circle. I'm going to go look for a fill effect. I'm going to throw that on top of there. I'm going to fill this. We'll just set it to white for now. We'll do a fill effect on my BMW circle. Find like a blue that looks good. I'm trying to find a halfway decent blue here. Sure, why not? This fan, I think one needs to be white and one needs to be blue if I remember correctly. So I'll do one white, I'll do the other one, add a fill to it, and we'll do blue. Oops. Oh, it's hidden. There we go. That doesn't look right. I think this needs to be white, and my outer circle needs to be blue. That still doesn't look right, but whatever, you get the idea. Okay, so now we need to animate this. If I grab all these guys, scale them down a little bit to kind of fit what we need. Let's start with just these fans. I'm going to hide these other two. This is where we're going to start using track mats. I'm going to do an animation where I'm going to select my fans. I'm going to hit R to rotate. Start my rotation. Let's go maybe 60 frames forward. I'm going to have them end here. I'm going to animate backwards. And let's do -3 rotations. So we're going to start -3. And it's going to rotate and stop. I'll easy ease these, F9. So they slow and start slowly. Or they ramp up and ramp down. And I'm going to add, let's do our motion blur to all these. Looks good. Okay. Okay, but I want this to reveal. I want these to start hidden and reveal, right? So how do we do that? Well, we need to create our alpha mats for it. So for fan 1, this fan up here, we need to create essentially our shape that hides it when it intersects. So I'm going to go to my pen tool and create a new shape to do that. Okay, I'm going to click right on the center point here. I'm going to go straight up, straight across, straight down. I'm going to go down to about there and then back over. Okay, so this is my shape. I want that fan to be hidden when it intersects with this. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to say fan mat, and I'm going to bring that over the top of fan 1 is the fan. And I'm putting it right above fan 1 because whenever I set a mat, it always references the layer right above it. I'm going to hit toggle switches in mode so I can see my mat over here. And I'm going to set that to alpha mat fan mat. Okay, so automatically it hides my fan mat because once it references it, it's like, okay, good, you can go away now. So it hides it here. And so now, actually, I need to do the opposite, don't I? I need to set this to inverted. I want it to hide it when it's over it. So when it comes out, it animates out and reveals it like that. Okay. So you can see there's a little line here. I didn't really get it great. So I'm going to click on fan mat. I'm going to hide my mask edges so I can kind of just arrow down and kind of nudge this around until it hides it perfectly. Okay, completely gone. That's what we want. And once it passes, see it passed now. It's no longer obscuring it. If I show my mat again so you can see it, you can see this is the line right here that I drew. Once it passes that line, to here, I essentially want to hide this layer now. So what I'll do is you can either click and drag to crop that layer to that point, or you can hit Alt right bracket and it'll crop it right to where your scrub tool is. So now when it comes back around, it doesn't get hidden when it's over there. If this was over here, it would hide it again when it comes back around, which is not what we want. Okay, I'll undo that so it hides when it comes through. Cool. Okay, let's do the same thing for our white fan layer. I'll do the same thing, grab my pen tool. Again, I don't want anything selected. If I select anything with my pen tool down here and then I use my pen tool, it's going to create a mask. Nothing selected. I want to create a new shape. I will click. I'm going to hold. I held shift when I click this so it's perfectly across. Try to line this up as best I can and then close it. I'm going to put this above fan 2. I'm going to set my alpha mat there. Oops, I'm sorry, I got to invert it. It hides it because it doesn't need it. And when it crosses past, it reveals, right? That's what we want. Okay, we have that same little box thing. I'm going to select my fan. I'm going to get rid of my mask objects here. And then I'm going to just nudge this up and down a few times just to hide it perfectly. Okay, I'll turn that back on. Okay, so that's done. So now we need to have this turn this alpha off after it reveals it. So about right there. This can go away now. So either Alt right bracket or I'll just bring this down here. I'll just line these up so they're the same. So at this point in time our fans have gone past the point of our alpha mats. Okay. Zooming out, letting this play. So that's what it looks like. Pretty cool. Okay. Let's get our circles in the game here. I think we were going to have these scale in, so I'm just going to select them both. I'm going to hit scale. I'll go ahead 30 keyframes. Click them here. They're at 51% now. I'll maybe overscale them to 61%. And then maybe 10 keyframes later, they'll go back to 51. And I want them to start at 0. Okay, so we're going from 0 here, 0 to 61 to 51. I'm going to easy ease all these. F9. Okay. Okay, so that's that move. Let me play this so I can actually see what it's going to look like. I'm going to hide my other 2 layers here. Okay, looks fine. I'm going to have this BMW part rotate when it comes in. So I'm going to hit R to bring up rotation. I'm also going to hold shift and hit S to bring up scale also so I can see just my keyframes here. So rotate here and I'll have it finish rotating maybe just a little bit after it's done scaling. Doing here, I'm just going to set this to -180. So it just does a little half rotation. And I'm going to ease the back end one. I want it to start rotating like in full rotation as it gets going here. Okay, so there's my move, right? If we want, we could offset these a little. Oops, probably offset this one. If you want. I mean, it's up to you. Maybe that's just a little bit too much. Maybe just like 1 or 2 keyframes is enough. Okay, that's cool. So let's bring back in our fans. And let's set this so our circles are hidden when they intersect with where these fans would go. So let's go to the end here. Let's draw a new circle to use as an alpha map for those layers. I will hold shift and control. I'm just going to draw a circle that pretty much covers up those fans, right? Just the edges of those fans. I'm going to use this to alpha map these outer circles. Okay, so we'll go right above the BMW circle, alpha inverted. I'm going to duplicate that, put it above my other circle, alpha inverted. So you shouldn't see any of that until it's on the outside of those. And to be honest, we may want to scale these up just a hair to give it a little more pad between those things. Make a little more space here. Okay. So there's my BMW animation. Okay, cool. So let's do some final touches and make this look not so crappy. Let's go back to my background. Let's do a ramp. Let's copy our colors from our BMW thing here. We're going to make it really dark to even darker. And I'm going to make it a radial. I'm going to bring my gradient. We'll start, grab my gradient node, maybe over here in the corner. Go from the top left to the bottom right. In class, we want to add some lens flares. So I'm going to do a new black solid. I'm going to search for flare, lens flare. I'm going to change it to 105 because it's nice and blue. And I'm going to change my transfer mode to only add what I added to my black. So it's going to cut out all the black there. So if I switch this to add, you get this nice cool lens flare. Okay, I'm just going to drag this kind of off screen a little bit. And I'm going to, let's see. I'm adjusting my flare center here. If you click on the actual lens flare effect, it brings up the nodes so I can adjust where this flare is going. So I'll do maybe one up here. And let's do, can I do another one on the same layer? Yeah, I can. I'll maybe do another one over here. Okay, looks good. I'm starting to not like the blues that I picked for my shapes at this point. I may adjust those. Might make them a lighter blue. Or a darker blue might look cool too. Let's do darker. I just don't like the way they look. Okay, that works. Oh, you can see we got our square back, right? So that's going to be fan 2's matte here. So we need to nudge that over. I'm going to hide my edges. I'm going to nudge to the left and nudge it up. Now it's hidden. I'll bring that back in. Okay, that's cool. I think we also had a little light thing in class that swept across of it. Now that these are all the pieces of my logo, I'm going to take all these, pre-compose all of this into final BMW logo. So now I just have it as one thing. I can click and move this whole thing around if I want to. That helps. So I'm going to rename this flare because that's what that is. And we're going to go in and add an adjustment layer. An adjustment layer affects anything that's below that layer. So if we make an adjustment to do that light sweep thing, it's going to affect the background, the lens flare, everything, which we don't want. So we're going to do this inside of this layer. Okay, let me turn my transparency off. So, because we only want it to affect my logo. So I'm going to add my adjustment layer inside of here. And we're going to kind of make a little shape on here. So we're going to mask this out. I'm going to create a little slanted kind of layer here. So click down here. I'm going to hold shift to make it like a perfect 45-degree angle. Click down a little bit, and then I'll just kind of complete this. So I want this essentially to sweep across like this to kind of do like a light effect thing. So I'll put this in the middle so we can see what it's going to do to it. I'm going to add a levels effect and brighten it. Okay, we'll brighten to about there. I'm going to add a glow effect. We'll throw it on there as well. I think I'm going to put my intensity to, or my radius to about 22, make it a little more bloomy. Okay, so that's kind of the light effect it's going to do when it crosses it. So I want this adjustment layer to essentially do something like this, where it like goes across. I think my levels might be a little too much. I just don't want it to get like to that green color. So we'll do it like right there. And then let's adjust the glow a little bit. Do I need to bump up the intensity? No. Maybe. A little bit. Maybe bring up the radius. Radius to about 30-ish. It's kind of all just depends on how this is going to go. If I want, I can add a curves effect. Again, this is all down the road stuff. So if I do a curves effect on here, I can go specifically to the blue channel. And this is just a curve for, like, think of it, your blacks are down here, your whites are up here. So if I bring this up, I'm going to make everything a lot more blue. So I'm just kind of affect the color of this. I'm going to bring it above my levels. That's the first thing I want to do. Honestly, don't know if that makes a difference. We might be killing it with the levels. All right, we'll get rid of that. That looks fine. So we got our adjustment layer. Let's hit MM to bring up the masks that we drew around here, and let's feather this out a little bit. So let's add some feather so it's a little smoother, not such a harsh edge. Looks good. And let's do a position move. Let's do it after this kind of finishes. Maybe once these are all in right there. That's where I want this adjustment layer to start. I'm going to rename this like light sweep. I'll do a basic position move, hit P, go ahead, maybe 2 1E keyframes. And I know it wants to end here. Oops, I'll have it end here. And I want to start right on the edge, so make sure I'm good, and I want to easy ease this. And when it's done, I want it to completely be gone. So I'll hit Alt right bracket to crop the end, right? So I know that this is the entire length of the sweep. So it'll look like that. And honestly, if you want to get weird, I could like scale. Actually, it won't work. Oh, that's all right. Okay, so we got our light sweep. That looks pretty cool. I like it. Can we kick our levels up even more to get this? Like, yeah, it just gets green and funky. If I bring that up, my blacks up a little bit. That looks pretty cool. I like that. Okay, so we'll go back to my final comp here. We'll see what that looks like. Let's play that. Cool. I like it. We also added a reflection. So now that we have this final logo done, we can duplicate you. I'm going to go to my scale. I'm going to take off my constraint proportion so I can change these separately. And I'm going to change my Y to negative 100%. That'll flip it. All right. I'm going to bring this guy down. Find that point where it grows to its biggest. I just want that to be the edge of where these two meet. Okay. And I'm going to rename this logo reflect. I'm going to bring my opacity down to maybe 15%. And I'm going to take a mask and I'm going to draw a mask on here and I'll feather it out so it fades down as it goes. And I'm going to blur it. I'm going to type in fast blur to blur it out. Blurriness to like 14. Okay, we'll render that out and see what it looks like. Oops. There you go. It's kind of my final animation. I could animate my lens flare if we want. You know, you could do stuff there, but now you can kind of see why it's useful. We used a bunch of track mats for each layer on here, which is great. We used the Lumimat to cut out the logo, so it's kind of a good culmination of, and a bunch of masks, so good culmination of all the stuff we were supposed to learn this week. So hopefully this helps. If you want further explanation of specifically on Lumimats